Open Public Meetings Act, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board in Town Hall and forwarding to the officially designated newspapers that this meeting would take place at Town Hall at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, September 4th. Would everyone please stand to salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Mr. Levy?
Here.
Ms. Lieberberg?
Here.
Mrs. Rosenberg?
Here.
Mr. Idlo? Here. Mayor Burton? Here. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? So moved. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'd like to call on Werner to introduce the recipient of the Community Service Award, Arlene Shapiro. And after that, Ms. Lieberberg will present the proclamation.
Can we move the mic over to Arlene?
It's movable, we certainly can.
Take it.
Do you have any?
Get it over there, Arlene,
Yeah,
so
sure.
she doesn't have to move over here. Thank you. That's all it does. Okay, she'll come to the mic. Right. It's my great pleasure and honor to have nominated my good friend Arlene Shapiro for the Community Service Award tonight. I've known her for many wonderful years. She's one of the most kind, generous people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. She has a wonderful, gentle sense of humor about herself too, and I'll tell you a little story about that in a minute. And it was easy to nominate her for the Community Service Award. Arlene moved to Millburn with her husband and 4 children around 1950. Shortly after she moved here, she was in the Millburn Public Library and met a woman who had been doing UNICEF, and she wanted to retire from that, so Arlene took it over. Nearly 70 years later, she's still doing UNICEF. She would go to the schools and the houses of worship to distribute boxes, and after Halloween, she would go back to all the schools and houses of worship, collect the money. Did you count it too?
My husband.
We'll share the award with him. And then take it to the bank. And as I said, she's still doing that. Shortly after she started with UNICEF, Dr. Charles T. King, then Millburn Township School Superintendent, and he was in that position for 27 years, asked Arlene to talk about it at the principals meeting. She was nervous, and she saw that her hand was shaking, and she joked that somebody gave her a shaky microphone. In addition to her UNICEF work, she was a Girl Scout leader for 23 years. In that capacity and under her guidance, her Girl Scouts made a quilt that they donated to a children's hospital. Her Girl Scouts had a white elephant sail to raise money for a trip to see John F. Kennedy's grave. In addition to these volunteer commitments, she did a newsletter for the Sister Kenny Polio Foundation, helped the Kidney Foundation with their fundraisers, volunteered for many years with the Ruth Estrin Goldberg Memorial for Cancer Research, and worked for them as an event coordinator preparing huge fundraising dinners. Arlene just told me that she just remembered that President Bush appointed her as one of his points of light for her volunteer work. As a final tribute to her, when she turned 80 years old, her family set up a Community Service Award to recognize Millburn High School volunteer. The student is given a monetary award, and his or her name appears on a big plaque at the high school. So Arlene, thank you very, very much. And if you'd like to say a word, this is not a shaky microphone.
I'm proud and very happy to be here. I look like I'm the oldest one here. I just had my 92nd birthday and feeling just as wicked as ever.
That's good.
4 of my children, all of them, graduated from the Millburn community. I told Lynn that I did research yesterday and found that every one of my children, still to this day, are volunteers. They learned such a wonderful lesson. We had such great teachers, and I know that I'm going to find that we'll still have great teachers. And they really must have to pass muster if they want to work in Millburn and be famous. Gail is my eldest, and I'll speak generally about each of them, but not enough. She also earned the Point of Life from President Bush. She's been a volunteer since she was a brownie, since she was a candy striper, since the boys in the school made fun of her uniform, and the awards that they earned, that most of the children scouts, they just left off their school clothes and wore the thing which I insisted on. So I don't know, I heard somebody tell me I have 15 minutes, but I don't. But there's 2 more. Rita is now the Women's Forum of Washington, D.C., and she is the advisory committee of volunteering. And Danny, as you see here, who doesn't want me to tell everything I know, I'll make it easy. He does not refuse anybody who wants a donation. Either every school, because that's what we have, UNICEF in every school. The kids see the continuity of giving because it's part of living. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie Jackie has the, and we move you over to there, has the proclamations for you, Arlene.
Want me to do it right here?
Okay, let me get out of the way of that. Oh!
Wow. Limbo.
Whereas the Millburn Township Committee values the contribution of volunteers in the township and wants to recognize outstanding volunteer efforts that reflect the giving spirit of our community, including township residents and places of worship. And whereas Arlene Shapiro, her husband, and small children settled in the township in Millburn in 1950. Whereas through a chance meeting at the Millburn Library, Arlene met a volunteer for UNICEF who wanted to retire, and Arlene took over the annual collection of donations on Halloween for that organization. And whereas for almost 70 years, Arlene has been collecting donations from local schools and houses of worship in support of UNICEF. And whereas Arlene Shapiro's volunteer career over many decades encompassed being a Girl Scout leader for 23 years, writing a newsletter for the Sister Kenny Polio Foundation, as well as volunteering and being an event coordinator for Ruth Estrin Goldberg Memorial for Cancer Research. And whereas to honor Arlene on her 80th birthday, her family established an award at Millburn High School to recognize a student for volunteerism. Now, therefore, on behalf of the Millburn Township Committee, our Mayor Cheryl Burstein, and on behalf of all members of the Millburn community, we extend thanks and appreciation to Arlene Shapiro, a consummate volunteer over many decades, who has enhanced the quality of life in our community and beyond, and who has provided inspiration to all volunteers. Thank you very much.
And you're looking at Dan, who does the UNICEF now.
Can you move your hand in?
There you are. Arlene Shapiro, Community Service, The original date was 7/17/2018, and today is September 4th. Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you, Bill.
May I have a motion to approve the May 15, 2018 Township Committee meeting minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Mr. Levy?
Yes.
Ms. Lieberberg?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Delisle?
Yes.
And Mayor Barsney?
Yes. May I have a motion to approve the May 15, 2018 Township Committee special meeting minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? May I have a motion to approve the June 5th, 2018 Township Committee meeting minutes?
So moved.
May I have a second? Second. I wasn't here. Yes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recused?
Recuse.
There you go. Thank you. George, would you like to report for us?
Announcements. Once again, it's that time of year, September 11th is approaching, and the county is having its solemn ceremony at Eco Rock Reservation. The ceremony will start at 8 a.m. And there'll be speakers commemorating the tragedy of that day that occurred 17 years ago. It's hard to imagine that much time has passed, but we will continue to do that at the county to remember those we lost on that day. Next up, there is a Heroes for Children 5K taking place in the South Mountain Reservation. Registration is now open online. It's the address is njca5k.com. It will take place on September 15th at 9 a.m. There will be medals for different age brackets, so I would encourage anyone who's interested to go and register online. And lastly, on Tuesday, September 18th, is the 13th annual Senior Wellness Day, which takes place at Cody Arena, right here in South Mountain Reservation. There will be health screenings for the seniors. There will be produce, some food for them, as well as after the event, there's free admission for all seniors to the zoo.
So what qualifies as a senior?
That's a good question. I think that's 64.
Okay.
Information is available at 973-621-44.
Thank you. Okay, reports. Ms. Fuller.
Nothing specific, except today Jackie and I had the opportunity to meet with the artistic director of the paper mill, and we had a really good meeting. We spoke to him about community outreach and some things that the paper mill has been doing, and it was just really great. We had a tour of the whole building, the back offices, the stage. They're going to have those seats in 2 weeks as planned. It's going to be beautiful, and there's just so much the paper mill does, and I don't think the community realizes, and it's about educating the Millburn Short Hills residents as well as people who come from all over to the paper mill. And we really want to work closely with the Paper Mill and Township Committee to bring that to everyone's attention, and it's going to be a really good partnership beyond what's been going on for the past 10 years when they were saved by the previous administration from 10 years ago, which was Mayor Dan Baer and Tim Gordon. So I think we can do wonderful things working closely with them.
Terrific.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it'll be good.
Mr. Levy.
No reports.
Rosenberg.
Speaking of seniors, ages 64 and above, there's Grandparents' Day in Millburn this Sunday for National Grandparents' Day at 4 o'clock in Taylor Park. Girl Talk Millburn, which is a community organization, is having a celebration with activities for grandparents and senior and girls and Girl Talk. And the Senior Citizen Advisory Board will be meeting next Thursday, the 13th, at the Town Hall at 1:30. Millburn Live, DMDA, is happening this Friday, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., and also later this month on the 21st. So Millburn will be live and in excitement. Friday night, please come to town. please come to the farmer's market, which was today until 7 p.m. and every Tuesday until October 13th. 30th, excuse me. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Ms. Lieberberg?
No, I just want to mention that the ad hoc recycling committee meeting will be meeting again on next Thursday, September 13th.
Thank you. Do you have anything? No reports. Jimmy?
Nothing but nightmare.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes, I have one report regarding, unfortunately, despite our best efforts, New Jersey American Water will be back on Parsonage Hill Road to finish the 30-inch main project. On the brighter side, Millburn's infrastructure is going to be brand spanking new, but obviously that will result in road closures. The work is expected to start on September 24th. And will last until approximately November. This is in anticipation with spring paving for both Old Shore Hills Road and for Parsonage Hill. Spring paving from Essex County is expected to begin after March 15th. This information will be disseminated via our normal channels, Facebook, Twitter, and the township's website sometime tomorrow. We're working out some detour information so that people can have it.
Thank you. Mr. Falcon?
No report.
Okay. I just have a couple of things to report on. One is that we finally got the deed by Now Finner and Way from New Jersey American Water. And Canoe Brook Country Club has agreed to deed over the piece that we need, but I don't know that we've actually gotten the deed. And as soon as we do that, we'll be able to put something up there that will preclude anyone from thinking it's a road.
Actually,
So-
we have the deed.
Did we get it? Because last time I took the hand, we didn't have it.
He was waiting for the accompanying certificate.
Oh, okay,
which
did we
they
get
have
that?
indicated they'll send it over.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So we're going to follow that up. And Essex County Bar Foundation and the Essex County Prosecutor's Office is engaged in a no questions asked gun buyback program. And they're asking for the public's support. So if anybody is interested in supporting that program, their goal is to raise $100,000. They've secured $50,000 in pledges and donations to date. And information on that can be found through the Essex County Bar Association, and any questions can be sent out to Wendy Deere at wsdeere@essexbar.com. And with that, we will turn to a presentation on recycling. Mr. Holman.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Jesse Molman, who works in the administration office, and our summer intern, Victoria Werner, who has helped us out over the last few months, I believe since May. It's been a great experience for us. I hope it's been a great experience for all, but has certainly helped out in us educating the public about recycling. And Jesse actually also acts as our recycling coordinator for the township. So I'll let him take it away. We've done a lot of messaging as it comes to recycling. And go ahead, Jesse.
Good evening, everyone.
Use the mic.
Is that good? Okay. Good evening, everyone. This presentation is going to focus on the various components of our recycling program and how individual actions at the curb can affect the recycling market as a whole. So, in terms of recycling, the distinction between what's considered trash and what's recycling is trash doesn't have value. It gets tipped in a landfill or an incinerator, and then it doesn't get reused again. Recycling gets put out at the curb, goes to an end market, gets sold on the international market, and then gets reused. And because it can be reused, it has value. And so it's important that we treat recycling as we're the suppliers of material that we can get money back from. And so when we recycle correctly, it can save the township money. And when we put the wrong material in the recycling, it actually costs us more money than if we put it in the trash to begin with. There isn't a steady value for recycled goods, so As an example, when the price of oil drops on the international market, it will become cheaper for manufacturers to use oil to produce new plastic as opposed to buying recycled plastic. So as much as we could put clean plastic in the recycling stream when the price of oil drops, there's nothing we can control on that end. But when China decides that they want to drop their contamination rate for recycling down to 0.5%, then it forces the consumers and the end markets to enforce a tighter, stricter stream from the consumers. And so one of the recent changes that we've instituted as a municipality is to make sure that there are no plastic bags going in the recycling stream, because that was leading to high contamination rates. Just as a reference point, in our last recycling audit by Waste Management, which received our material, our contamination rate was 8%, and they have to sort through it to get it down to the 0.5%. And that 8% is actually pretty low compared to what the general municipal output is. So these are all the accepted recyclable materials for single stream recycling that occur. Plastics 1, 2, and 5. Cardboard, which everyone should flatten if they can before they put it out at the curb. It's much easier for the facilities to control it that way. Tin and bimetal aluminum cans, so soda cans, mixed paper, and glass. And so if all of those materials are put out perfectly at the curb, then we have a clean stream. But if, for example, the pizza box that you put out has grease in it, if the takeout container has food in it, then what was once a clean material becomes trash, and by putting it in the recycling, it actually costs us more money to handle in higher processing. Plastic bags can be recycled at supermarkets and retailers, but not at single-stream facilities. No food or liquid, so people should rinse out their items and let them dry before putting them in the recycling bin. Polystyrene or styrofoam can't go out at the curb, but it can be brought to the public works yard. Wires, tanglers, hoses, and cords cannot be recycled. They should be put in the trash. E-waste, so cell phones, TVs, printers can all be brought to the public works yard, but not to the curb. And clothing. And this is what a Class A recycling facility, so this is what theoretically our waste management facility in Newark looks like, at least a couple times a day with all the plastic bags that get caught. Those spinners have to be cleaned out hours at a time by those employees that are there, which is dangerous for them, and it costs the facility a lot of money to try and clean up. And so the last couple months, when the end markets have been forcing municipalities to clean up their stream and leave recycling at the curb if it has plastic bags, is because of scenes like that. The township has begun a couple of recycling initiatives to help make the recycling stream as clean as possible. One of those is tagging recycling cans with these OOPS tags that will help residents identify what may have resulted in them leaving the recycling at the curb that week and how they can rectify it the following week. Our recycling page has a video that we're going to show from Victoria later, as well as the Public Works pamphlet and some more recycling information. And we've just started including Recycle Coach on the website, which allows residents to search for any item that they can think of, and it'll let them know whether it can be put in the recycling, put in the trash, brought to the Public Works yard, or none of the above. The state of New Jersey was very good and bought licenses for all municipalities in the state through 2020 so that they could really get a hold of this program and start implementing it. And counties like Burlington County that have been using it for a couple of years have noticed that it's helped in educating the residents on how to recycle. And so in conclusion, recycling has both environmental and economic benefits that impact people's pockets. The effectiveness of the program is wholly dependent on the people that actually generate the recycling, so us as individuals. And while the quantity of recycled goods is important, the quality is even more so. So if we put a lot of material out in the recycling that's dirty, it's not necessarily the best thing for us. It could actually end up costing us more money. The term that the end markets are using now is recycle right, not recycle more. And so, any questions from the committee?
Any questions? Thank you.
All right, now we'd like to show a video that Victoria had done over her summer internship. Unfortunately, we're dealing with some technical difficulties, so we're going to actually play the video and try to use the sound through the microphone. All right. Go ahead. Sure.
Should I leave it here or should I just
Whatever's comfortable for you.
grab it? Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Victoria Werner. I am a senior at Millburn High School and I'm also the administrative intern here at Millburn Township. And I have to say it is really an honor to be standing in front of all of you and presenting the video that I made. So I have actually been working here at Millburn Township since April and more full-time in the summer. And my job has really focused on social media management, social media outreach, and also communicative efforts here at the township, just to foster a sense of community online as well as in the township. So here at the township, I have had the pleasure of working on various videos, logos, infographics, signs, all through graphic design that you probably have seen on the Facebook page, Twitter page, or even the website or the YouTube channel. So I'm standing here today and I really want to say thank you so much to everyone for this amazing opportunity, not only the internship itself, but also just for trusting me and my creative visions. And when making this video, I am truly humbled by this experience, and I thank everyone for just giving me the opportunity to do this. So without further ado, please enjoy the video that I made, and yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Millburn Township here. We want to show you the top 5 ways to recycle right. Dirty bottles and cans lead to contaminated recycling. So before recycling them, clean your cans and bottles. A quick rinse is all it takes. But make sure they're dry before placing them in a bin. Paper and corrugated cardboard must also be cleaned to be recycled. Don't recycle greasy pizza boxes or any other soiled cardboard. Plastics 1, 2, and 5 should be recycled. Here are some examples of plastics 1, 2, and 5 that should be recycled. Styrofoam should not be recycled at the curb. However, clean white styrofoam can be brought to the public works yard for recycling. Never put plastic shopping bags or plastic wrappings in your recycling. Place all loose recyclable material in a reusable can with a lid marked for recycling. Recycle your plastic bags at a local retailer. The township's recycling hauler will not collect contaminated recycling. Any recycling bins containing plastic bags and other non-recyclables will be left at the curb to avoid clogging machines. However, this can be avoided if we all pay extra attention to what we put into our recycling. Learn more at the Millburn Township website. And don't forget to recycle right.
Thank you so much.
And it's very impressive because your skills and what you've learned at Millburn High, and it's just really amazing that we were able to do this in-house, and we didn't have to go out and hire a firm to do this, so we thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Our next presentation is going to be the DMDA budget. Mr. Sorkin.
Do you all have copies of what was that?
We should.
Yeah.
Good, okay.
David Sorkin, 77 Fairfield Drive. I wanted to, I haven't been here in a few months, but I want to present to you in compliance with the municipal ordinance, the DMDA budget, which needs to be submitted by September 1st. The document we've submitted has been discussed and voted on by the current board, many of whom are sitting behind me. It's been posted publicly on the DMDA page of the downtown website at downtownmillburn.org/DMDA. And we've had the pleasure of going through the proposed budget in detail during the summer with almost all the township committees. Sam, we're still, we're going to get in your calendar soon. We'd love to talk through the budget line by line with you, but we did have the pleasure of going through it with the town committee folks. We will give you a brief line-by-line overview tonight. Again, tonight is the introduction. My understanding is there's a full formal hearing in October, but I did just want to point out a few things before we go through the budget line by line. Number one is that we didn't base the 2019 budget off of what's been done in the past. First off, you'll see that we got it all on one page this year, easy to view, easy to reference. We used last year's budget as a starting point that we could learn from, but we also benchmarked our proposal against what's been done and managed successfully in other towns and special improvement districts. And Beth Whitman, who's here tonight, she was able to provide insight into the appropriate percentages. For example, in the last budget proposal, over half of the budget was allocated to staffing. In 2019, we're bringing this down substantially to 25%. Again, a number that's not only in line with what other towns have allocated, but also a number that we feel meets our needs in bringing in an experienced part-time executive director. Second, we felt the need to better represent the DMDA as an economic development tool for the town. You'll see less money allocated to areas such as one-off special events. You'll see more money in places like marketing, where we can help individual merchants promote themselves, or consultants, where we can bring in outside expertise to advise in areas like traffic, parking, and new business integration. And we hope to have the opportunity to partner with the town in some of these areas as we all share a common goal. And then finally, you'll see we've set a small amount, just 5% aside for a contingency. Part of our financial responsibility is not to be in a place where we have to show up every 6 months saying that we don't have any money. So by having a small amount set aside, we can be quick to act upon an emergency, an opportunity, or a special project that we haven't been able to address in the past. So with that in mind, again, as part of the introduction, if it's okay, I'd like to just walk through kind of line by line what each line is. DMDA folks in the background, feel free to jump in, Beth, especially you. Basically, we have a budget set up here, again, line by line on a page. The top line, the bid assessments, our revenues come from the collected assessments as set forth by the SID ordinance, 0.0011% of assessed value, which is the SID assessment for properties with residential components. From a grant sponsorship standpoint, Alex, that's the $9,000 for the Clean Communities grant that we have going into next year. Also in here, we talked about increased responsibility to the DMDA for a lot of some of the things in town, which we'll address as well. Interest income, it's not a lot, but the deposited funds will yield interest from our bank. We have the farmers market, money collected from the participating farmers and sponsors. We have administrative expenses. This is compensation for a part-time executive director. As we discussed in July, our number one goal for this year is to get back into compliance, to strengthen the board, and to bring in an executive director. We want to make sure, obviously, before we go out and hire somebody, that we have the budget and funds secured to do that. So that's probably the number one thing that of importance that you'll see on this list. You'll also see there's insurance, which covers directors and officers and general liability, bond and workers' compensation and insurance policies. The professional services, an accountant responsible for an annual audit and taxes, legal expenses set aside for legal services as needed. We also have consultancy fees set aside. Again, we're looking to hire and bring a consultant for parking, for traffic, for planning, to review and recommend best practices and ordinance that involve the downtown business community. Office operations, that's just keeping the lights on with rent, telephone, printing, copying, office equipment, postage, and other office expenses. Visual improvement, again, this is something that we're going to be taking on increased responsibility from what I understand.
planting, watering the planters, sidewalk sweeping. We're also partnering with the Chamber of Commerce starting this year, but moving forward, to help with the light up the park and turn Taylor Park into kind of a special winter destination. So that's something that's new to the budget this year versus what we've done in the past. From a marketing and promotion standpoint, we're looking to begin an enhanced marketing promotion program to help drive customers into our businesses. We'd like to have boots on the ground, someone visiting businesses, someone really going in, getting to know the business owners, helping them with social media, driving promotion. This is something that we're going to integrate as soon as this year, but we want to make sure, again, that it's sustainable. What we don't want to do is start a program and have to cut it off after a few months at the end of 2018. We know that customers are going out to shop for social purposes. It's important for retailers to try to learn about that, provide a social experience, something that we haven't been able to help them with in the past. Social media, again, the Facebook page needs to become active. Our social presence needs to be enhanced, and that's something that we have in the budget as well. Advertising, while we've cut back in advertising, we do feel it's important to support our local news outlets and advertise our events and our promotions that we put together with the retailers. We look to continue the farmers market, sponsoring and managing it, providing promotions at the market that'll help direct the visitors to local businesses. We also have Millburn Live, as far as special events, Millburn Live, public events, supporting events by other groups such as the Chamber of Commerce. And then at the end is the contingency that was discussed before. Again, so we don't come to you every 6 months, so you say where the money goes. That's hopefully that will work. So that is the budget. A big overview. Again, I know that you all have time to digest it. We have an upcoming meeting, so kind of the open forum, but if there's any questions or concerns about some of the line items that you see, we're happy to discuss them this evening.
Sure. What I see, some of the individual events that you won't take any further, the Sidewalk Sale and Snowflake Parade.
Mm-hmm.
So those are going to be excluded for 2019?
The Sidewalk Sale, there was budget allocated for the Sidewalk Sale.
You don't have to explain why, I just want to make sure I understand it.
Correct. The Snowflake Parade is being replaced. Instead of the one-off event, we're going to be enhancing Taylor Park for the month of December. So that didn't really disappear. It's just getting
Sign.
So the Snowflake Parade is being reinvented in the 50% increase in the lighting?
Yeah, the holiday lighting and decorating. We're going to participate in the walk in Taylor Park and keep it up on.
So the Snowflake Parade moves to Taylor Park in some form?
In some form, in a long-term destination versus a short-term event.
Okay, and the 22.5 for consultants, give me an example of what kind of consultants would be hired to perform services that the $50,000 a year executive director cannot perform?
The executive, so the consultants will be brought in for specific related to the town, such as parking, traffic, planning, things like that, where the executive director would be overseeing the whole of the DDA. We would bring a consultant to help us with a specific area that we think as an economic development initiative for the town. We think that the dollars could be well spent.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the committee?
So it's my understanding that the farmer's market last year or 2019, the event income was $8,000. And $4,500 of that is going back into programming to kind of strengthen the market as well as ancillary programs. Is that
The event income.
The event income at 2018 at this point, we're not done with the total income, so we just did it to date.
Right.
Right.
This is through August?
It's through, about half of the month.
Through probably the end of July.
July, beginning of August.
But you're allocating a $4,500 for next year, a $4,500 expense on the bottom for special events, farmers market.
Right, so we've got the revenue up top.
Yeah, you've got the revenue up top for $8,000, and you have the expense of $4,500. So is that for those bags? What else constitutes the expenditures in promoting the farmers market is what my question is.
Promoting the farmers market, the manager farmer's market manager.
The banners, the advertising,
Banners, the advertising, rebate.
the graphics.
So the salary for that part-time is part of that, is in that? Okay.
And we can go back to it.
Okay.
Mr. Levy?
Just to follow, the holiday lighting and decorating, that's non-denominational, is that the expectation?
That's the expectation. Consistent with what was done last year.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
Thank you again, you know where to find us, any.
I'd like to say one more thing. Can I have one more thing?
Just hand up.
That you were given the detailed budget, which had last year's budget, the actual to date, and for 2019. But on the second page, you'll see that there is what we're asking you to be the final budget. And the reason for that is that in the state ordinance and in the municipal ordinance, if you want to move monies around within a category, if it's more than, say, 10%, so say we decide we want to take from consultants and we need it for something else, or within that category, you have to come back to you and have you approve and go through the whole process again. So by putting the category, you approving that budget and publishing that budget, it gives us a leeway to move monies around within the different categories without having to come back.
So you're saying within professional services, for instance, between the attorney, the accountant, and the consultant?
Yeah.
You can move it within that,
Right.
but you can't move it from professional services to
Well,
promotion and
we
marketing?
couldn't move it because we designate that we think we're gonna need 3,000 for this and 22,000 for that. But what happens if something happens and we need
Right.
more for the accountant or whatever it may be? We'd have to come back if it's more than 10%, that's which it's in the municipal
Okay.
ordinance, it's also in the state statute. So what most big do is that, give you all the details so you'll have that. But when it comes time for approving and publishing, it's the one that allows us to move the monies around within the categories.
Okay. Any other questions? May I have a motion to approve Resolution 18203, which introduces, approves, and sets the public hearing date of October 16th, 2018 at 7:30 p.m. at Millburn Town Hall for the DMDA's 2019 budget.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Levy?
Yes.
Ms. Liebenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Gallego?
Yes.
And Mayor Burston?
Yes. And before I forget, the one thing I didn't announce is that our next meeting is on Monday, September 17th, not Tuesday, September 18th. So just want to make sure that I got that out there as well. All right, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda resolutions. We have on the consent agenda tonight the bills list, authorization of refund of tax overpayments, authorization of a one-year extension of the recycling contract with Waste Management, to authorize the purchase of GMC vehicle for Millburn Public Works Department, authorize the rebid of the Town Hall bathroom project, a professional service agreement with Mott McDonald to study the Horan Circle flood wall in the South Mountain section, authorize online auction of energy purchase, authorize the online auction energy purchase lighting meter, and authorize the installation of 3 speed humps on township roadways, also in the South Mountain section. Is there any member of the public that has any questions or comments on the consent agenda items only? Yes, ma'am, please come up.
Sarah Sherman, 42 Greenwood Drive, also representing the South Mountain Civic Association. Just for clarification, the speed humps, and I'm assuming this is as discussed at the ad hoc traffic committee, this would be for Whittingham?
2 on Whittingham and one on Ridgewood.
Between Locust and Myrtle.
Correct.
So this does not have anything to do with Ivy and Beach and other discussions that
Correct,
have been held?
because we haven't come to any conclusions yet.
Okay, so I assume that's pending and we will call further?
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments from the public on the consent agenda? Any questions or comments from the committee on the consent agenda?
comment that I'm very happy that these speed humps are going through. I think it's something.
yes then?
That's
You
a
have a
yes.
comment?
Yeah,
What's your comment?
my comment is that the residents have been asking for this, and we heard them, and we answered it thanks to the ad hoc committee. I think it's a positive move. I know some might not be thrilled, but I think it's going to be positive.
Good.
I have a question about
Yes.
that expense. Check number 20263, Garden State Highway Products, $11,500. Alex, do you know what that is?
Specifically.
Or just in general?
In general, Garden State Highway Products is all of the township signage, whether it's stop signs, do not enter, street name signs, things like that.
Cones, is it that too? Like
They can be,
cones?
yes, they do also sell cones,
Okay.
but generally it's our signage.
And this is for how long a period?
Again, I'm not sure if that looking specifically into
Okay.
this.
Just as a way of a comment, if you're going to ask those kinds of questions at this meeting, you should probably ask ahead of time so he has the ability to look it up and have an answer for you.
But generally it's our signage.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
May I have a motion to approve the resolutions listed on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Levy?
Yes.
Mr. Gerber?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Pauletta?
Yes.
And Mayor Burton?
And the next item on the agenda is Resolution 18213 to authorize the township to join the municipal pipeline group. Any member of the township committee that has any comments in regard to Resolution 18213? Yes, Mr. Levy.
Well, I've stated my opposition to this resolution, or the proposed resolution and the contents of it previously, which I won't repeat in interest of time. But on the resolution itself, the 8th whereas clause provides that the Township Committee previously adopted Resolution 15028 on January 6, 2015, opposing the project. In fact, that resolution doesn't oppose the project. The only thing that 15208 does is urge Army Corps of Engineers and other organizations to reject the project and urge an environmental assessment. It doesn't, the Township Committee did not actually oppose anything in this resolution. So to the extent the whereas clause is used as a basis to support Resolution 18-213, it's defective. So I would urge that the resolution either be amended or rewritten, because one of its bases is not actually factually accurate.
Although, let me ask you, as legal person on this, the resolution says, resolution to express the opposition of the Township Committee of the Township of Millburn to the Pilgrim Pipeline Project. So that isn't the title of the resolution.
And that's an expression of what the intent of the, perhaps of what the intent of the resolution was, but what was actually resolved, which is part of the resolution clause, has nothing to do with opposition. This has to be urged. Now, it may be a Scrivener's error, it may be intentional, I don't know. I wasn't on the Township Committee then, and nor did I participate in any dialogue on this. But it doesn't resolve that the Township opposed it. It just urges what the Corps of Engineers, the New Jersey Highlands Water Protection Council, and other authorities were supposed to do in terms of rejecting the project. Millburn itself didn't reject the project. My guess is because there was nothing to reject. There is no project to reject at the time, nor is there a project to reject now because nothing was entered New Jersey, which is one of my problems with this entire resolution. But nonetheless, that whereas clause is defective if used as a basis to support this current resolution.
Kid, what do you say?
Well, I would think that perhaps that could be clarified by removing reference to opposing the project and instead saying that the Township Committee adopted Resolution 15028 urging rejection of the project by applicable governmental agencies. There are in paragraph 1 a request that the following agencies, the Army Corps of Engineers, the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, the New Jersey Highlands Water Protection Policy Council, and any other federal, state, or local entity engage in review of pipeline projects to reject the project. That would remove the reference to opposition to the project, but I think accurately reflect what the township called upon these agencies to do, to reject it.
Very good, fair reading.
I don't think you can, you'd have to have a motion to amend, and I'm not sure, but I think you'd have to publish an amended proposed resolution rather than just amending it on the spot and having a vote on it.
No, not published. Or it should be.
You can just amend right now?
Yeah. So this, whereas clause would read, whereas the Township Committee adopted Resolution 15028 on January 6, 2015, urging its rejection by applicable government agencies.
I say the urging rejection of the project by applicable.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments on the resolution?
Yes, I'd like, well, on the resolution or just the topic at hand?
On the resolution?
So we can have Mr. Scagnelli's here from speak?
No, I didn't think it was necessary. He spoke last time, was he
No,
just on the resolution?
actually, okay, so this is, if anyone had any questions.
No, we're not.
Oh.
He's not. He's not
Okay.
amending it.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the committee on this resolution? Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion to approve resolution 18213 as amended?
Well, point of order, the resolution hasn't been amended because it has to be moved to be amended. You can't just arbitrarily.
Fair enough. Okay. Is there a motion to move? Is there a motion to amend the resolution so that the whereas clause now reads, whereas the Township Committee adopted Resolution 15-028 on January 6, 2015, urging rejection of the project by applicable government agencies?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, I guess.
Mr. Levy?
Yes.
Ms. Lieberberg?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Paul Yes. And Mayor Barsney?
Yes. Is there a motion to, may I have a motion to approve the resolution 18-213 as amended?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have a vote, please?
Mr. Levy?
No.
Ms. Lieberberg?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Paul Yes. And Mayor Barsney?
Yes. Does any member of the committee have any new business to address? New business? Going once, going twice? Is that new business? No, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. McDonald, would you like to?
Yeah, I mean, I had brought to the committee's attention, but, you know, under new business might be a time to also just bring it up and discuss if the committee has discussion. We've been approached about the possibility of constructing a cell tower at the fire department headquarters building, where a current tower, although not a cell tower, does exist. Just the committee's thoughts on that. Again, as we've been approached, it would be good to just have some direction on that matter.
Do you have any details on the size and scope and what
Yeah,
it's planning to do?
so this, again, it would have to be bid out. It would not be just sort of, hey, here's your cell tower, but the idea would be that it would be a cell tower of approximately 70 foot, The current tower that's at the fire department building is 65 feet, and that it would occupy a small space beside the fire department headquarters. The bid would be to lease that portion of property from the township to build that tower, and that communication equipment could be, if needed, established on that tower. Those are the details that I know at this point. Again, it's just whether there's appetite from the committee to explore that.
So I would say, are there any pictures or diagrams of what we're exploring? Any,
Just what you normally think of a cell tower. I don't have any
but
particular.
bigger than the one we have in.
It's a monolithic. It would be a monolithic pole with the nodes at the top of the tower, like you normally see. Like I believe you have one at turf grass.
Yeah, I don't have an objection to it, but there's been a lot of litigations around the country, successfully in many cases, in which affected occupants who live around cell towers are suing not only owners of the cell towers and lessees of the cell towers, but also owners of the land in which, essentially the landlord in which the cell tower sits. And so to the extent that we do this, it would seem that we would want an indemnification agreement from whoever owns or installs the cell tower in the event of that kind of litigation. Unless, or except perhaps, if we're putting our own communication equipment on that, for instance, emergency services and things like that, that would maybe have to be a carve-out.
Is there such litigation in New Jersey?
I don't know. There is in California and it's been successful. There is in Nevada and maybe elsewhere out west too. It's become a plaintiff's lawyers shift categories in which they like to sue under, and California has seen its share of suits. There may be in New Jersey, I don't know, but it seems to me that we would want an indemnification agreement.
Certainly. Any other thoughts? I also am not opposed to it, but I think we should look into some of the issues that are raised. I know when I sat on the zoning board, there were a lot of applications for cell towers, enough. And we'll have testimony from people with respect to the waves that are produced, and it's really, in New Jersey at least, it's really can't stop someone. I mean, we're talking about a township, so it's sticking their personal property, but you really can't stop somebody from putting a cell tower on their property.
So if a resident chose to do this, to lease out their property, you're saying they could?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes, it's very hard to.
But one of the reasons residents don't do it is because they face ultimate liability for the waves as alleged. I don't want to get into legal stuff, but a lot of people allege cancer and things like that from these things. So you make yourself vulnerable to those lawsuits.
Yes.
There's one case on this decided by Judge Bosnellis a few years ago, stating that there will have to be a full hearing so that the considerations such as potential effects of radio transmissions and so forth will be brought to the fore, and anyone who wishes to comment on any of that or bring information to light which would affect that will have the opportunity to do so, and such a hearing must be held in order for such a transaction to be completed.
Alex,
Ms. Lieberberg?
yeah. Alex, could you just please explain to everyone, unless or me certainly, what's there now, at the 65-foot level?
Yeah, it's a like a wireframe tower that currently holds our backup emergency communication equipment. It's, I'm not sure how to describe it, but it's like one that you could climb. It's more triangular in nature. It's not a monolithic pole. Has a wider base frame on it, but it's certainly not the diameter or of what you typically see in the cell phone.
And that's for our communication only.
Correct.
So do we want to investigate this further, is the question that's pending?
I think it's worth investigating, a starting point, sure.
Right, I agree. Do we have a consensus that it would be
Yes.
worth?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. Any other new business? One of the things I put on the agenda is a discussion regarding possible construction changes. And as I said I would, I met with the Building and Engineering Department, and we were coming up with some ideas of what might make sense that they would think is a good idea. Now, and some of this came up because we have a resident who has been complaining about what's been going on next door during construction, new construction. And so one of her original complaints is that during the demolition of the house next door, they didn't have a porta potty. And we were trying to figure out, our building department, because porta potties are governed by OSHA, our building department does not have authority to say, hey, put one there. And we can't have an ordinance that does that either because OSHA governs. So one of the things we talked about was having an ordinance that basically says that our developers in town have to comply with OSHA. And that would then give us some teeth for our building department to be able to direct somebody to do something. So that's one of the options, or one of the possibilities. Another issue that came up is having garbage strewn all over. And a suggestion is that that the building department has discretion to direct the developer to install a chain link fence with privacy around it. Called privacy fencing? Screening, privacy screening, so that the debris will remain on their own property. And also make sure that sidewalks are clear of debris, or if the property is too small to be able to do that, have safe passage. Another issue that came up is when a structure is being demolished, to require a wet down of the main structure of the house during demolition and during debris removal. Fourth item is, and this was suggested actually by a member of our public, that we require our developers to have a demo plan. So that would provide for dust control, give us a time frame of when demolition was going to take place, provide a location of the porta-john, provide a location for the dumpster, and provide a location of silt fencing. That will also make it easier for our building department or our inspectors to make sure that when someone is doing demolition, that they've got everything in place that they need to have in place. And the last thing that's come up is that we preclude major, like earthwork, work with major machinery on federal holidays, without exception, as opposed to owner-occupied being permitted to work, since everyone will just say they're owner-occupiers. So, so those are 5 items that we discussed, and if that's something we're interested in doing or pursuing, then it's something we should then direct our council to start drafting some ordinances. Any thoughts?
I think that's great. It's nice when a complaint turns into us taking action and realizing what's going on. I know, especially with the wet down, that was the question about asbestos. I had residents call because they had young children and they were worried that there would be asbestos in the air should they not wet it down, but it wasn't a requirement.
Asbestos has to be removed before they can demolish a house. So it's a lot, for us, it's like lead, because these are old homes, a lot of them, it's the lead in the paint that gets out there as well, so. Any other thoughts?
So what is, are we going to have like specific fines laid out, penalties, like how's that gonna work? Would that be the next one?
No, I mean, generally there's a general fine that governs township ordinances, which is a maximum of $2,000.
Per offense? A one-time fine, they spend 1 week, 2 weeks, 1
No,
day?
you can assess the fine per day.
Per day? Oh, that's a good deterrent.
You can also stop work, too.
You can stop work as
Right.
well. Correct.
Right, you would have to stop work until they did what they needed to do.
Right. So it'd be a one-time fine if they stop work and correct whatever's going on. They would not be continuously fined.
Correct, so if they don't have a John, and they bring one,
They're good.
and they don't have to get a fine the first day, they can, you know, you can say, if you don't have it here by tomorrow, you'll get a fine. I mean, those are things we can discuss as we flesh out ordinances.
Right.
Yes, it's something we want to go ahead with?
Yes, I think
Yes?
so.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. Thank you. All right. Well, we're down to public discussion. So, when you're invited to speak, please come to the lectern, slowly state your name and address, and speak into the podium microphone so your comments can be understood by all and properly recorded. Whenever you read from a prepared statement, please give a copy to the Township Clerk's office, give a copy to Megan, or email it to the Township's Clerk's office at c.dcgatti@millburntwp.org. We request you not to repeat what others have said. We are not going to use our clock today. We're going to see how it goes. And we'll see what happens, whether we go back to it. But we'll try tonight without it. So with that said, if you would like to make a comment, please come up to the microphone.
Am I the only thing? Thank you, I'm good.
We never will, this will be the only two.
Thank you. Josh Starr, 11 North Thorn Road. For the last 3+ months, there was partially demolished, there has been a partially demolished house at 28 Whitney. The owner took possession, I think, at the beginning of the year. I have some photographs that I could certainly pass around so you could see the magnitude of the issue. And there's very little movement on it. That photograph was taken about a month ago. The house looks the same. The whole top of the building has been sheared off. It's become an eyesore, a nuisance. There is animal infestations. It's obviously a fire hazard. I have here the next door neighbor who tells me that there's a pit that was dug in the back that filled with water during the rains and became infested with mosquitoes. So it's a problem. I don't know if it's anywhere else in town, but this is certainly right down the street from us. And it's affected values, it's affected the quality of life for everybody in the Knollwood neighborhood. This is right on Whitney Road, it's right behind the middle school. I had contacted Mr. McDonald in the beginning of August and spoke to the code officer, to Dave Como. Evidently, nothing's been done since then. Looking at code, at our ordinances, there is an ordinance in Chapter 10 talking about property maintenance. And certainly compromises property maintenance. It's horrendous. There is a remedy to it. As Mr. McDonald just mentioned, there's a $2,000 per day penalty that could be imposed on something that is this horrendous. It has affected everybody in the area. I know that there's properties for sale in the area. Frankly, if I was looking at property in the neighborhood, which has always been very well maintained, great lawns, beautiful houses, everything, you know, leave it to beaver kind of. If you drive around and you see something like this, it's an emotional turnoff. The owner obviously doesn't care, or it appears that they don't care because they're not doing anything. So there is recourse, and I do believe that the town needs to take the recourse and impose penalties on the owner as soon as possible. I know that officers have come by to take a look at, you might have taken, I've sent you these photographs, and nothing's done. So the question is, why isn't anything done?
No, we'll definitely look into that.
Why do I even have to be here?
No, listen, I agree with you. So if the ordinance provides the ability for us to do that, to start planning them, then I agree with you.
Okay, let's make some money here.
Let's make some money. Taxes down, taxes down.
Okay, and I'm sure there's others in town. You can keep it, Sam. It's for you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Felix Ellie, 32 Whitney More or less, the kids were happy to get out of school this year. Fortunately, I'm not being able to let them out of the yard at all. Nobody can guarantee there is not asbestos in the house that was torn out. So I'm not going to gamble with that. Memorial Day, they were nice enough to leave insulation all over the yard on the side. When we did call the police, it was kind of too late, so we had to cancel our Memorial Day barbecue. The kids, more or less, the entire summer have not been able to go outside. We have the mosquito infestation, not to mention the mice running back and forth due to this project. There's nobody next door for us to talk to other than our makeshift post office box that we put on the yard. It's constantly moved according to the construction people going on. The county came out last week and saw that there is a major mosquito infestation. It's not just here saying they attempted to try to treat it and advised me to contact the Board of Health as well because they do see this as a health concern. The Labor Day came and we still can't use the yard the entire summer. I hope you guys can do something because I called the building officials. I've said our concerns high. We don't have ordinances. We don't have anything to really give us any bite.
So if they have to do one, we will, but yes, we will look into this and we will move on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, David Cosgrove, 99 Oakview Terrace. I was hoping for a report on the status of the mediation relating to the Silverman property. There was I think, a mediation, a couple.
We have a mediation meeting.
I'd like a little more than that. That seems a little smart alecky there.
Don't mean to be smart aleck, but you know that we're not going to discuss it in a public session, and that we did have a mediation session, and we have another one scheduled,
When's the next one scheduled?
the 13th.
Was there paperwork exchanged in connection with the mediation, the one that happened already? And the reason I asked that is I asked for that from the town and been told that the committee says that that's privileged information and won't give us anything, including a statement by the developer that was given to the town council. I don't think that's privileged at all. Not even close.
I didn't see the clerk's response to your Oprah request, but I believe she cited the Mediation Act, which said that all documents exchanged in mediation are privileged, and that loops back through Oprah follows that.
It doesn't if it's a mediation statement that's provided by the developer to the town council, to the litigants. It's not privileged. Maybe you want to reconsider that, I don't know. You certainly can give it to us as well.
We will follow the advice of our council on this.
Okay, very good.
Hello, Dee Shear, 101 Oakview Terrace, Short Hills. I wrote a kind of lengthy letter. I didn't send it to everybody until today. I didn't know what the rules were about emailing everyone together. Maybe that would be a meeting or something like that. But in any event, I would like to read the letter. It's a little long, but since we're not getting any information back about what is going on at the hearings, although I'm questioning whether that is actually legally appropriate, because I'm not clear what the lawyer-client privilege is when other people, other than the lawyer and the client, are involved, and why the citizens of this town can't know what's going on and have a voice in what's going on in this negotiation. But anyway, if we're not, even whether or not we get that, we can still make our views known so that you know what we would like. So it's a little bit lengthy letter. I hope there don't seem to be a lot of speeches tonight, so I hope
you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Okay, and I do have a copy that I'll leave, although I think I emailed everybody anyway. I believe that Millburn's main argument against the plan that the Silverman Group has proposed for the property it owns on Woodland and Chatham Roads in Short Hills, which to my understanding is 82 or 62 one and two bedroom inclusionary housing units providing 10 units of affordable housing, commercial space below the housing, a facility for the Summit Medical Group occupying around 10,000 square feet or more, and a 191-car parking garage are simply not suitable for the 1.5-acre Silverman lot. As you know, the Silverman site is in a B3 zoned area across from the Short Hills train station. The site is nestled in a residential neighborhood of single-family homes, one 2.2-acre garden apartment development, the Cora Hartshorn Arboretum, The current Silverman plan that has been made public is for a complex of 3- and 4-story buildings to occupy nearly every inch of the site, nearly all of the site, creating a solid block of attached buildings that rise up much higher than anything else in the surrounding area. Looking at the relatively recent case of Cranford Development Associates, the Township of Cranford, I see several statements by the appellate division that support the argument that Silverman is not entitled to a builder's remedy judgment that allows it to build that kind of complex, the medical, commercial, parking, housing complex that it's planning to build, or that it wants to build. For one thing, the appellate division characterized the Cranford lawsuit as an action brought by developers alleging that Cranford's current zoning prohibited the construction of affordable housing. In contrast, the B3 zoning at the Silverman site doesn't prohibit construction of inclusionary housing. I don't believe that Silverman is claiming that it can't build a 67-unit inclusionary residential housing project, 15% of which would be 10 units of affordable housing without violating B3 zoning. I'm not sure they're actually saying that. But building such a housing development is not what Silverman wants to do. The Silverman Inclusionary Housing Project is merely a mechanism Silverman is using to build much more than housing. Silverman wants to build a large Summit Medical Group facility, or a reasonably substantial one, commercial space under the housing units, and an underground parking garage large enough to permit Silverman to rent some of the spaces. And this is my understanding, of course, we're cut off from information, so I'm only guessing here. Some of the spaces, my understanding is, would be rented to individuals who would not be either its rental or business tenants, or their visitors or customers or patients, maybe to people who just want to park there to use the train station or park there for other reasons. That's my understanding. It may be that some development, other than the inclusionary housing itself, is necessary to make the housing financially feasible for Silverman. However, Silverman, what we are asking, what I'm asking, is that Silverman be challenged to show that it cannot build a financially feasible project that contains the inclusionary housing it has planned and stay within the B3 zoning, which was in place when Silverman bought the parcels, and that now make up the Woodland Chatham Road site. And if the zoning has to be changed to accommodate a financially feasible 10-unit inclusionary housing project, I am asking that this township committee assert the right to limit those zoning changes to the minimum necessary for that financial feasibility. So there's another case, as the appellate division said, it's a Cranford case. The builder's remedy was developed not for the benefit of builders, but to advance the constitutional interest in affordable housing. And the New Jersey Supreme Court said in another case, in southern Burlington County, NAACP versus Mount Laurel, the public interest should be guarded carefully to be sure that plaintiff developers do not abuse the Mount Laurel doctrine, and that's what I'm asking here. In Toll Brothers, the Toll Brothers case, Toll Brothers versus Township of West Windsor, the New Jersey Supreme Court characterized the requirements for granting a builder's remedy as including both the requirements that the proposed project contain a substantial amount of affordable housing, which may be said at least 10 units. I'm not sure about that either. And that the requirement that the builder's remedy, lawsuit, the builder's remedy site be suitable from both an environmental and a planning perspective. Silverman's plan would just add 10 units of below market rate rental units to Millburn's housing stock, and only for 30 years.
On the other hand, the medical, commercial, parking, housing complex that Silverman wants to build on this 1.5 acre site would be 3 and 4 stories of solid construction, occupying virtually the entire length and breadth of the site for the foreseeable future, including years after the requirement for subsidizing the 10 affordable housing units lapse. Furthermore, even if Silverman were able to show that its planned Woodland Chatham Road project is environmentally suitable, and I don't know that it has, Silverman would still not be entitled to a builder's remedy in this case, as long as Millburn can show that Silverman's project represents bad planning. And allowing a huge, tall complex in a village-type neighborhood like Glenwood, made up of single-family homes, one small area of low-rise apartments, a small amount of low-rise commercial structures, a beautiful arboretum, and the Point Short Hills train station is bad planning that violates Millburn's master plan. Millburn's planning goals include protecting the character of its established neighborhoods. There is no plan for the area around the Short Hills train station to become some sort of transit hub or a mini downtown Millburn. My understanding is that a builder's remedy settlement concerning a 2.2 acre site in Glen Ridge in 2017 provided for the developer to build 98 units, a 98 unit inclusionary housing project, and nothing else. Under that ratio, the Little Silverman site could reasonably accommodate a 67 unit, barely, inclusionary housing project, providing 10 affordable rental housing units and nothing else. Likely such a project could be accomplished either close to or within current zoning. We're not sticklers for the zoning, but we don't want something way outside of the zoning. And here's what the zoning is. It's the B3 zoning is front setbacks, a minimum of 10 feet, rear setback, a minimum of 25 feet, building coverage maximum 50%, floor area maximum ratio 0.75, lot coverage minimum 0.75, building height maximum 32 feet, building height stories 2. There's also the possibility of Silverman withdrawing its builder's remedy lawsuit and reaching an agreement with the township to build a Summit Medical Group facility, if that's what they really want to build, and a significantly lower number of housing units on a scale that's either close to, again, or within the B3 zone. Of course, 15% of whatever number of units are built would need to be affordable housing. Perhaps such a plan would result in only 5 units of affordable housing for 30 years, instead of 10 units for 30 years. I would say that such a reduction is not substantial in absolute numbers, especially when we consider that the magnitude of the project and that the project is going to be there for such a long time. Furthermore, Millburn has already shown good faith in terms of providing affordable housing when suitable opportunities arise. It agreed to the Back Cali project, which is currently being built and includes, I believe, some 30 new units of affordable housing. In addition, Millburn submitted its affordable housing plan before the Silverman Builders Remedy lawsuit was filed. So, thank you for considering these suggestions. I assume, and this is as Dave said, I would assume that the public will be told what's happening in the mediation, including offers and counteroffers by the parties. And I assume that no settlement would, or at least should be reached, without more public discussion of the options and a public vote by members of the Township Committee. We have the right to know what is going to happen in our neighborhood and our town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ed Mazer, Greenwood Drive. I will be well under the 3 minutes. A year ago, we passed 2 traffic ordinances with respect to the opening of the Washington School. One of them was on Main Street heading north, that a right turn was prohibited from 7 to 9 in the morning, 2 to 4 in the afternoon. I would suggest to the board that this should be further limited to school days. It makes no sense Saturdays, Sundays, or during the summer that the traffic, a right turn, should be restricted on that. That's similar to would be the restrictions that we currently have prohibiting a left turn onto Haddonfield during school days. The second one would be the one restricting left turns out of the Washington School on Spring Street. Currently, it prohibits left turns from 7:30 to 9 in the morning and 2:30 to 4 in the afternoon to restrict cars and get them out of the Washington area. That seems to be working with the cars. The buses uniformly make that left turn onto Spring Street. If in fact it's necessary for the buses to make that turn, I think we should be adding an exception underneath that, except buses, much as we did from Essex Street, permitting the left turn onto Main Street for buses. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mazur, I just want to say that at the ad hoc, the Washington section, South Mountain section ad hoc, the no right on red only on school days versus every day was discussed, and the representation from the South Mountain section was that it was okay to have it 7 days a week. So I think that if that's an issue, that I'm going to ask you to go back to the South Mountain group and have that discussion internally, South Mountain, and then they'll bring it back to the ad hoc. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Linda Ranieri, 94 Oakview. I have three very small issues, questions. One is the recycling. That's to recycling people. I generate a lot of shredded paper. And when the ban on shredded paper came out, I understood no plastic bags, and I've been putting in plastic bags. I said, can I put them in cardboard boxes? And I was told no. So that didn't make any sense to me. So I called the recycler, and they explained to me that the little bits of paper get sucked up into the machines and clog the machines. And then I was happy, well, not happy, but then I was content that I had an explanation. So I guess my request is, can we just put an explanation? Here's another example. Don't put the caps on the bottles. Now we have to put the caps on the bottles. My question is always why? If we could put somewhere in the recycling literature why we can't do these, it would make me a happier camper. The other is a DMDA question. Do you have any figures on how the farmers market's hours now late in the day compare to generating revenue as opposed to the same period last year?
We don't have definite figures. We're starting to get anecdotally, we're starting to see the difference in flow, the difference in traffic, and we'll have our numbers at the end of the year.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that we wait to see how it goes to year end and then we can do
Okay. If you find that generating traffic has been less than last year, if you consider moving it, I don't know if it served the purpose of the people who get off the train to stop by there, but.
Of course, we consider moving.
Okay.
I mean, it's in the best interest of everyone to put the market where it needs.
Thank you. And the last one is the Silverman property. A neighbor called me, St. Paul town, to complain about the condition of the property. The weeds are knee-high there now, and there was a big pile of cardboard boxes or something in the corner, and I think it would be nice if they showed some interest in helping our neighborhood stay reasonably nice looking too, and at least clean up the property, mow the weeds or something. Thank you.
Thank you. No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm
You
sorry.
can do your, come on. Yeah, it's okay. Thank you.
Now I have
So I know you have no idea what I've come here to talk to you about. But I just want to make sure that everyone in Millburn Short Hills is fully aware that Saturday, September 29th is Rocktoberfest, because we are so excited about Rocktoberfest that we are having it in September. That is how excited we are. So I just want to make sure everybody has it in their calendar. It is going to be an amazing day from 10 o'clock in the morning in Taylor Park till 7:30 at night. And then that's, you know, a whole all families, all day event with a STEM expo in the Bauer Center, with rides, with food, with, you know, wonderful vendors and activities for the entire family. So everybody from 0 to, you know, I don't know, 110-ish, can come to the park and have an amazing time. And then we have the after party from 7 p.m. until 10:30 p.m. at 75 Main Street, which is the open lot, like adjacent to Moonshine, and that is grown-ups only. So we just want everyone to come out and really support our town, support our schools, because we truly think it will be a wonderful event. Trust me when I say we are working like dogs to make it a wonderful event. I intend to see everybody here. I know most of you. Everybody here and everybody who's watching from home. Y'all got to come out to the park. Yeah, everybody. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dan Bear, 11 River Lane, Mayor, members of the committee. Megan, how are you? Alex. Kit. Good to see you. Hope everybody had a wonderful holiday weekend. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Now that's all. I want to thank you for the time and patience and energy you put into your decisions. I know it's not easy, and I know that because I've been there before, and you certainly have my respect. You're required to make very difficult decisions that affect the quality and value of this township. And I'm here today to discuss and advocate for the importance of maintaining the value of probably one of, if not our most important assets, our residential and commercial properties. And you regularly make important decisions that directly affect the value of our properties, be it the streets or waterway projects, chicken coops, whatever. But each of these decisions directly impacts our value. However, as you know, there are instances where decisions are made outside the township's boundaries that also affect our value and worth. Recent federal tax legislation will ultimately challenge the township's ability to maintain its value. There are other issues outside our boundaries and outside of your direct control that also impact our value. And these issues relate to connectivity and the ability to continue to connect people's residences to their jobs, their places of employment, and places to recreate. And we're now seeing a lack of investment and disinvestment in our regional infrastructure, in our highways, in our railroads. And our transportation systems are vulnerable at best and teetering towards system failure at levels we've never experienced. Our roads and bridges are being closed. Many probably recently experienced canceled trains. I think you get the picture. So why am I here? I'm here tonight to request the consideration that the township and its elected body take the lead in advocating for state and federal funding to bring our systems up to the levels necessary to accommodate future growth and demand and preserve the value of our community. This township has experienced the positive benefits of transportation investment and improved connectivity. In the early 2000s, our property values increased from 18 to 20% with the introduction of Midtown direct rail service. Not even the schools have generated a one-time increase similar to this. And I ask you to look and think outside the township's boundaries and advocate for the maintenance of the value of our properties through the necessary investment in our infrastructure. And I ask you to be leaders on this issue and take the necessary steps to garner support for such investments so that we preserve the value of our homes and our commercial properties. And through the preparation and consideration of a resolution this township can take the lead and build a coalition around a very important and significant issue. So thank you for your time tonight, and I hope that you'll consider and take the time and steps to advocate for this very important issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Marilyn Burney, 420 Millburn Avenue. I just want to say thank you to the Township Council, in particular, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Alex, for taking the time to lead the downtown and to hire people to keep it beautiful and to continue the plan that you had put in place. Because it was looking a little tired, but you heard my constant complaint, and I appreciate you making it beautiful for everyone.
Anyone else? So before I ask for a motion to adjourn, for those who it is relevant, and even to those who it's not, wish you all happy and healthy. We have a new year coming up for many of us, and I wish you all a happy and healthy new year. And with that, may I have a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. And a second. Adjourn. I guess all in favor?